All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Ty's Take. I'm Dave, your host, founder of 40 Sons, and sort of smart space guy. I've been here answering questions for Ty Rade. We're going to continue that for a little while as she comes more and more up to speed on what's going on here on planet Earth, and specifically what's happening in the pursuit of space. And so welcome. I think we'll just continue with your questions, Ty. So if you've got any more, and I know you do, go ahead and hit me with what's on your mind.
Okay, yeah. So we've obviously talked about this a lot, but I feel like there's never an ending to ways to answer this question because there's so many different people and ways we could do this. I'm going to ask again. What would you say is the best way to support space and really getting on the project?
Yeah, and it is, and we have kind of talked about some of these main points several times. Like we're really trying to drive these points home. I hope it's getting through. I hope we're not annoying anyone with it, but I'm sure there might be somebody who's going, "Didn't you already talk about this?" We did, we have. But I think it's important enough to mention again, and that is, fans, being a fan of space, being interested in space, following what's happening in space, talking about space like we're doing here, talking with your friends, making it the topic of conversation over dinner, mentioning some new headline or some new rocket launch or something like that. There's certainly enough to talk about now. So, again, and our little formula we came up with: awareness plus interest equals change. So if you're keeping yourself aware, you're staying interested, it's going to lead to change. So there you go. I can't guarantee we won't say this again somewhere up the road. So I'm not going to make that promise here. That's the last time we'll mention it. But yes.
And then on that point, just having the interest in space while we're just here on Earth, when it comes to the actual target to space, that's kind of a big jump, right? There's the interest in space, but then when it comes to actual target of space, that's a big leap from one to the other.
Yeah, it is. It's a huge, the orders of magnitude there are just incredible. And space is basically everything out beyond Earth. So, we live here on Earth. Earth is, it's been our home. It is our home. Earth is huge by every standard we have. It takes hours to fly places, any great distance, and that's flying at a great speed. I mean, Earth is really big. So it seems like the next logical step from Earth would only be like a little bit bigger, right? But once you get out into space, that's like the scale of that is very difficult for us to wrap our heads around. There's a great little analogy. I'm going to just take a minute and give it to you here, to kind of a way to think about the scale of space and what is out there and what the possibilities might be. If you imagine going down to a beach and just standing on the beach, kind of try to picture being there, and then pick up a handful of sand and look at a grain of sand. You can kind of imagine, everybody's seen about how big a grain of sand is. Very tiny. There you go. You can even take the motions. Imagine that grain of sand is a star, like our sun, basically another sun. Then look at all the rest of the sand in your hand, even the little bits that are stuck to your finger, stuff like that. Each one of those is another sun, is a star. Brush it off. That's all stars. Each of those stars could have planets around them like ours. Not all of them do, but a good number of them could. Now, look at the beach that you're standing on, the sand you just dropped back into the beach. All the grains of sand on that beach are all stars. Each single grain is a sun that could potentially have a planet. That is, and it gets bigger. Imagine all the beaches in the world. Imagine all the deserts in the world. I know it's kind of hard for the human mind to wrap, you can't really think really in those terms. But all the sand in the world, every little grain of sand is a star, if you could imagine that. That's about how many stars are in the observable universe, what we can see. There's about as many stars out there, basically as many suns like our sun, not like our sun, but other suns, as there are grains of sand on Earth. So when you think of it like that, the possibilities are just beyond enormous. You know, what could be out there in terms of resources, opportunities, things like that. Now, the caveat to that is, of course, it's not like we can just go to any of those stars. We can't go to any of them yet. We can see them, we can look at them, we can, observe them, whatever. We can't go to them yet. But imagine a day when we can. Imagine a day when we are able to go to other stars, other solar systems, other planets, to get
Other
to that.
beaches.
Other beaches. There will be other beaches. That's right, with their own grains of sand. So that would be the ultimate goal. And so when we talk about going to space, yeah, it's big. It is a really big leap to go that far, but it's helpful to look at it in terms of how much opportunity is out there. And it starts with a gradient. Everything's a gradient, right? So we're not obviously going to go that far just yet. We're in orbit now. We'll make more orbital stations. We'll go to the moon. We'll make bases on the moon. Eventually, then we'll go to Mars, colonize Mars, places there, and then go to the next and the next target. So it's all about setting targets and moving ahead towards them. So yes, Earth to space is a big leap, but it's definitely within our ability to take. We've already taken it to a small degree, and we just have to keep taking bigger and bigger steps.
Dang,
That's all
yeah.
it comes down to.
How do you think we should even begin, like, start thinking in those terms? What gradients should we take just to have that concept?
I think it's really, and we talked about this too. I really think it's about just making up our minds, like really, like
Mhm.
deciding. Most everything starts with a decision. You know, very few things happen
Right.
without you deciding that you're going to go do it. After the decision, then comes the follow through. But if your decision is strong enough and certain enough, then you're going to take those steps and you will accomplish it. So I think really the way we begin to think in those terms is to just make up our minds. Just make up our minds that this is what we're doing, and then go do it. Again, simple. A lot of what we talk about here is simple. A lot of complexities get entered into it just by living life here on Earth. There's lots of other things to do. Got to buy groceries,
Mhm.
got to go fight wars. There's like tons of things to occupy us, and it's very easy to get distracted and not work on this bigger game. So, but ultimately, that's all it comes down to, is making up our minds to do it. So there you go. I probably blew your
Wow.
mind with the sand analogy. So why don't we end this one there? I'll let you recuperate a little bit, get your perspective back, and we'll come back in another one.
It's definitely a big image to try and picture
It is.
that even exists.
I know. I had you with the idea of the beach being all stars. Your mind was blown on that, but you could at least comprehend it. But then when I started saying things like all the beaches in
Yeah.
the world and all the deserts like that, it's nonsense. It's just crazy. Now it's crazy talk, Dave.
It's a lot, it's
It's
definitely
hard.
a lot.
It is hard for the human mind to grasp just how much is out there. But for me at least, it's a reminder that thinking small, there's really no reason we need to think small. There's no reason to think in
It's true.
terms of scarcity. There is no real scarcity. Yes, there are scarcities here on Earth. I think we talked about this in another episode, like an earlier episode, about the Doritos analogy. There's a scarcity of Doritos in your
Yeah,
house,
yeah,
but there's not a scarcity of Doritos in the world. You just have to get to them.
right.
Same thing here. It's like, yes, there's scarcities here on Earth, but honestly, if we keep pushing out into these frontiers, there's no scarcity. There's no shortage of anything.
You think small,
Anyway,
you say small. If you think big, you
yeah,
get big.
that's right.
Okay.
That's right. In fact, remind me in the next episode. I want to give you a quick analogy. Well, not an analogy, an example of some resources right here in our solar system that will again blow your mind. So I've
Wow,
got
okay.
I've got another mind blowing thing for you, but let's save it for the next episode. All right, thanks Ty. Thanks everyone. We will see you in the next one.